So this is Paul Gleeson for Boston's Listening Tree, interviewed by Victoria Percival. Okay, so can I ask what brought you to Boston?
My mother-in-law lives further north from here, Mablethorpe, and she was ill, and so we moved somewhere where I could be near. I have an interest in wildlife and birds, so yeah, obviously from here you can cross the road, walk through St Nick's churchyard, and you're on the Haven. Keep walking and you're in the Wash, and keep walking. So it was nice. It's a decent enough town to live in, and so I just did local things really in my time. Then obviously I've had a more public profile.
And how are you finding that politically?
I find it interesting. Boston has a lot of issues that need to be addressed, and trying to get people to understand or accept that some of the givens aren't quite true is difficult. I mean, Boston has the highest rents in the East Midlands. It is always in the bottom 5 for wages in the country. 40% of the working population are on working tax credits, which is 7% higher than any other district in the country. So these indicate that there is actually something wrong within the economy of Boston. You can't have, if you take the capitalist market model of society, you don't have the lowest wages and the highest rents. That doesn't happen if the market is working. Mm-hmm. So there's something going on in the town that is skewing the market. Now people use an easy answer, which is they blame the recent influx of new workers from the European Union, but that actually isn't the driver, because those workers would be here anyway. If we had a 12-foot high wall around the country, we'd still need the people here picking the cauliflowers, processing the vegetables and doing the work. Boston only has a 1.8% unemployment rate. So the argument that somehow migrants are taking people's jobs is a false one. What is happening is the exploitation of new workers, people taking advantage of maybe their lack of knowledge of the system, is driving down wages. You have clear evidence. There was a report last year issued by the Latvian community that hit the press, showing that farmers were paying to gangmasters well over £8.50 an hour. Okay, not a great wage, but not a bad wage. And yet the migrant worker was not seeing £6.50. There are cases of people who are working 6 days, 14 hours a day, and saw £141. You have various scams going on, charging to get to the field, charging to get back from the field, making that charge even if they don't actually take you to the field. You get the charge for cashing your paycheck. You have sometimes new workers will be given a credit card, one of these pay-as-you-go credit cards, and they're able to borrow money on that for the first time they're here. And of course they don't realise the rate of interest that the person who's given them the card will be charging them. Then come the end of the month, they get their pay, all of a sudden most of it's gone paying the interest on the loan they've had. So now this is not everybody, this is not even the norm, I'm not saying anything like that, but it's enough for it to, if you look at Woad Farm, which is an estate in my ward, this is in the public perception a council estate. Okay, so it's meant to be an estate of social housing, which it was built as when it was built by the borough. Of any 10 houses on Woad Farm, only 3 of them now are social housing. They are mainly owned by Nevada. maybe slightly over 3, but it's roughly, in whole figures, it'll be 3. 3 of the houses are occupied by people who bought them under right to buy, or people who subsequently bought the houses and are living in them there. The remaining 4 out of 10 houses are owned by absentee landlords. And those who are unscrupulous, and that is not all of them, it's not, as I say, we're talking on the edges, but it's enough, to affect the system. You can, you're a merchant banker in London and you've just got your £250,000 Christmas bonus. You can come to Boston and you can buy 3 semis for that. If you're unscrupulous, or if you're semi-scrupulous, you change the living room into a bedroom. Nothing stopping that in law. And you change the dining room into a bedroom. So you've now got 5 bedrooms and a kitchen and a bathroom. You put 2 people in each room at £60 a week. That is £600 a week. That is £31,000 odd a year. Now, that is, okay, you will have some on costs with that, but let's even assume you're going to pay £3,000 or £4,000 in managing the unit. You're looking at a return over 30%. But of course that means that house is no longer available for families. It means the prices of houses get higher, and this profiteering, and it is profiteering, is what is then breaking the housing market. And because in your wisdom you decide that your people don't need a living room to live in, to spend their time in, and you, in the contract, you don't let them smoke in the house and you don't let them drink in the house, what you then do is force people out into benches on the street and so on, because they've got nowhere else to socialise. And so, when you see a group of blokes, women, whatever, sitting on a bench, someone having a drink, it's most likely that actually is the only place they can actually go to socialise. So, with that there, you then get all this it is then used again as a driver for an attack on migration and so on. Whereas again, you should be addressing the issue of you are not allowing living space within the house. That then also drives up, because again you have a house full of disparate people. They may well have known each other, they may have come over together, but it could well just as they've got no idea about each other. And then you have the potential within those houses of bullying, exploitation, and so you then end up with a situation with violence going on. Very successful new worker families in my area, but a delightful family just across the road from me and so on. So this isn't again, but people trying to blame it on people being migrants or something, which is just absolute lunacy. I mean, if you look at the history of Boston in the 11th, 13th century, we were a Hansa port, and that means that we as a town were doing most of our trade with the large towns around. They're interested in working hard to try and get some money so they can go home, because nearly every migrant who goes somewhere initially is going there with the intention of going home. I'm part of the Irish diaspora. My dad, God bless him, his whole life was going home to Ireland. We'll just get a little bit more money and we'll be able to go back and buy a little farm. He died early in his 50s and never did. So people aren't coming here particularly to live. They're coming here because we're saying to them, look, we've got work that needs doing. And what should really at one stage be a good story for Boston. We actually have more work in Boston than we've ever had. Going back again, so you've got, you've actually now got companies like Bakkavor, say, for example, who are bringing in produce from across Europe to be processed, okay, it's in Spalding, but relatively in a local economy terms, locally. And so we've got more work. The reasons why the new workers are living here is because the work is here the whole
low wages,
time.
isn't it? It's a history of farming and low wages. We've been told by our government that we're going to get a real living wage. Do you think that will actually affect Boston in a positive way or a negative way, or not change at all?
It will help, or should help. It would be better if it actually was a living wage. We could double our agribusiness around here and we wouldn't see a penny. I won't name the company, but there is because they're not doing anything wrong, but there is a very large, over 15,000 square metre processing plant on the edges of Boston. And its total rateable value is £26,000 because there's one little bit that isn't exempt. The £15,000 processing area is exempt. That should have a rateable value somewhere in the region of £500,000. And so, if that was rated, keeping your rates in after 2020, we as a borough would be seeing £500,000 times 44p, so just over £200,000. So because it's exempt from rating, and legal, they're not doing anything wrong. Then we as a borough, but we could encourage 5 more of them to be built, and we wouldn't see a penny.
So I guess the reason why it's kept free is because of the food that they're producing to get the cost of food.
Well, that was the reason a long time ago. Yes. Yeah. Yes, in the days when you had small little farmers in their sweet little farmhouses and their little chickens clucking around the yards, and the pigs and the cows and yes, there might have been an argument for it. We are now looking at multinational international agribusiness. There is no need to keep that tax.
What about the idea of encouraging new businesses into Boston? You were saying earlier about that, your children had to move away because there wasn't the future for them. Do you think that would be better for the young people of the next generation leaving school?
Yeah, again, we are stuck though in this vicious circle. Boston has a well below the national average of people with degree level education. We are some 10% below the national average. And if you were to take out of that equation people who are have retired here, it actually is, the picture actually is even worse than it looks. And you therefore have this vicious circle. We don't have a university, so we don't have that academic base that then leads to high-tech companies moving here, that leads to high-tech jobs being here, leads to us maintaining our... But so it's a vicious circle. You need to break out of it. There are ways of breaking out of it. In fairness to the borough, they are just in the process of employing our own development officer, which the borough has not had for a long time. Without doubt, there were young children far too young, being taxied far too far to schools. But in fairness, when that came to light, during the course of Task and Finish Group, and I was the vice chairman of Paul Kenny as chair, the county immediately put over £4 million into the education economy of the town, and to a large extent addressed that. So the education issue is one of the past. And in honesty, and I'm happy to say it, the level of achievement in some of our schools is better now for the children of migrants being in there. And there is actual statistical proof of that. The situation with doctors has nothing to do with migrants at all. The situation with, basically, if you look at the population of Boston, if you look at the new worker population, these are fit young people who actually, most of them actually go home to have medicine because they think medical service in their own country are better than here. So their actual strain on our health service is not disproportionate. There is an issue, I suppose another good issue. The reason we've got a nice new shiny maternity unit is because we now have a younger population in a lot of towns. If you look at our age profile, we've actually got a much better 20 to 35-year-old age profile than lots of other towns in Lincolnshire have. So we actually are having children born here. So it's why we've got them. Yeah, but that's not a negative. Okay, the big issue is, and I'm sorry, this is complex and political, the government 4 years ago regionalised the training of doctors. The training centre for the East Midlands is based in Leicester and Nottingham. The East Midlands region for training of doctors has the worst record for the recruiting of trainee doctors. We sit at somewhere in the middle 70% compared to, for example, the London training hospitals and areas which fill 100% of their places. So we are only meeting at most 80% of the initial need. So the need is assessed that the East Midlands needs, I don't know the real numbers, but say 500 trainee doctors this year. We're actually only filling 400 initial trainee places. These doctors spend 2 years in academic training. And at the end of the second year, they then elect to go either into GP surgeries, if they want to follow the GP route, or into hospitals, if they want to follow the hospital doctor route. At that stage, we lose half of the trainees. So we should have been at 100%, we only were 80%, we're now down to 40% of the need has now stayed. They are all set up around Leicester and Nottingham. So you say to them, well, do you want to come and work in the murder capital of England? And they say, oh yes, we'll run over straight away. So, going back, the last set of figures I have are 2 years ago. We had 12 places for trainee GPs. We only filled 4 of them.
I don't want to put words into your mouth. So would you say that the issues that are perceived in Boston are generally ones caused by central government, not actually by the people themselves?
They are caused by central and local government. They are caused by a failure to react quick enough. In my view, there was an issue during the 4 years where the Boston Bypass Party had control of the borough. It was 4 years when all they were interested in was a road they couldn't build. And so issues like a sudden change in population, nothing was done to it. The borough will accept, I've had officers admit that they took their eye off the ball. Well, the officers didn't, the politicians did. And so for 4 years, we had a situation where really it was just being ignored. We should have a number of our councillors should be from these new communities. We nearly managed to get some to stand, but circumstances stopped in the end. But we've got to start engaging with the people who are living, and equally the people who have come here from the south of England. I mean, I'm one of that earlier migrations. When I came here, every other person I met was somebody from down south who'd sold their house, paid off their mortgage, and bought a house up here.
Do you think if people got more involved in local politics, they would have more of an understanding about what you guys go through? Yeah,
I think they would, because, for example, the thing about the brown bin. People saying, you're getting people saying, well, what happens to the profit they make from? Well, there's no profit from the system. Say it cost £330,000 to run the free collection. Now, you've got the option this year of you half the population could have it free, paid for, half of it paid for by the other half who don't use it, and I don't know. So £300,000 is the cost of maintaining the toilets in the town. £250,000. So we could have shut all the toilets instead. They're your choices. The choice isn't, we'll go to the magic money tree and do that. The government has cut us by £500,000, so we've got £500,000 less to spend. They're allowing us to increase the council tax, and we are increasing the council tax, but they only allow us to increase it by 3%, which is no, actually, I mean, Gary Porter, who is a Lord Porter of Spalding, who is chair of the GLA, basically said, looking at the cuts the government are making to local government could cut every service it's doing between now and 2020 and still not have made enough cuts to meet the government's cuts.
Do you think if the people of Boston could come together, work together to make it better, they could? And
Yeah.
It would be?
Of course it would. Yeah, because by simply working together, there's this sort of, oh, there's some litter outside my house. The council should come and pick it up for me. Well, maybe we could pick it up ourselves. I'm not saying that's instead of the services we do and the general cleanliness, but we need to, again, this is not the council's town, this is our town. So it's for us to say and to start doing things. I mean, there is, I don't know, it's, again, comparing Boston to where I lived before, there does seem to be less of a feeling of empowerment of people. They seem to want the council to answer it for them, and so it's difficult. There are people who are leading campaigns, but really, there's a democratic deficit really around here.
Do you think people here need to be reminded it's their town?
Yeah, I'm your councillor. It doesn't make me anything very special, in truth. And I was successfully elected by 631 of the 3,000 in the electorate. I don't have a terribly big mandate either. So really, we've got to set. We've got to say to ourselves what we want our town to be like in 2020 and 2025 and 2030. And we do start, we've got to really start to take ownership back again.
So we saw, you were saying about how we can get that community spirit going, we can make Boston great, we've got these great food producers that could be generating income, and we could bring all that back together. I mean, someone was talking to me about how the community in the floods showed Boston to be an amazing...
and it is. But people actually felt they could affect change. You've got, if you are helping somebody lift their furniture up, you are affecting change in a demonstrable way. Yeah?
Yeah.
And it's making, you can't make people, trying to enable people to see that things can be made better.